Hopefully the quality is going to be good.
Warning, this podcast may contain language and content that some listeners may find offensive, and if you'd like to volunteer a better opening than that, I'm up for suggestions.
Or if you would like to volunteer as another co-host, we're open to that as well. Selina, you're fine.
Are we? What?
Welcome to Seesaw Podcast.
With your hosts, T, Cleaves and Selina.
Every week, bringing some much-needed balance and humour to brighten up what can sometimes be a dark, disabled world.
Welcome back to Seesaw Podcast. It feels like a hot minute since we've actually done one of these, and we're going to make sure we can actually do it right.
How's long's a hot minute?
It's been a hot minute.
How's long's a hot minute? Do you know what? I feel like I've drunk too much.
Again?
Already. I don't know what to say. It's been a
another-
month. You would have thought I've learned my lesson. Nope. I say it's been a month. Oh, I just broke.
Yeah. We do it every
illusion.
week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We definitely haven't taken a month off due to back content we had a lot of.
Yeah. And on the learning your lesson, I would have thought you would have done that after, episode 8 or 9, where we had to write off a complete episode.
Yeah, all right.
So, let's do the regular. Selina, what's going on in your life right now?
Lots of exciting things, actually, but nothing that I'm going to share on the podcast.
Ooh, that's going to be
For now.
Hey,
For now.
Would you even
For now.
say that? That's such a tease for no reason.
Keep listening for future episodes for the
Right.
Selina's doing her own podcast.
Yeah.
Shanghai.
Selina Saw podcast.
Sound like a dinosaur.
It does, actually. Please, what's going on with you?
I have turned up. Oh God, I wish I'd come with something more to say.
We're a bit out of practice, aren't we?
Yeah, God, man, we should do this every week. How are you, T?
What
What have you been up to?
I'm all good. So, this week, we will be talking about Volunteers Week, which is from the 1st to the 7th of June. So this episode will be coming out during that time. But what is Volunteers Week, I hear you ask? Essentially, it is a week to celebrate all the fantastic volunteers that do amazing work for charities and organisations. So if you go to volunteersweek.org, they have some suggestions on how to do so.
What? How to celebrate?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, these suggestions are just generic as what you just said. Hosting a party. Giving gifts.
Hang on. If you're hosting a party, who's voluntarily, firstly organising it, and who's doing the cleanup?
The volunteers, I imagine.
It sounds like more work for people.
Yeah. You can also host awards, volunteer awards.
I would ask those same questions about that award ceremony. Who's awarding for what?
I mean, we will get onto our experience.
Most volunteering volunteer.
Yeah.
If you're the most volunteering volunteer, that would imply that one, you've got too much free time or too much money, and ergo don't have to work and have too much free time.
Potentially. In which case, does the award really matter?
Look, it's not about me. It's about volunteering.org.
Well, these are just some suggestions. So
This also says here, give gifts and cards. That's nice. That's a good thing.
with volunteers, there's a lot of legality behind what you can and cannot do. I work for a charity and we have unpaid volunteers, and you have to be very careful about what you give them. There's some strict rules about the value of gifts.
Night out with Cleaves. Somehow you're in the minus monies.
Is that to look after you? I think
Yeah, it's just another night of volunteering. It's not what you got. The only difference is I'll pay for dinner. The bad part is it's from McDonald's.
I was gonna say
That's
the other bad
not
part.
too bad. Like I've had a thank you gift before as for being a volunteer, and it was a little thank you card with a sachet of hot chocolate. That's all it was. But it was a surprise, so it was kind of nice because I wasn't expecting it. But yeah.
Did you have to ask someone what the sachet was?
Well, yeah, it came in the post.
Anthrax.
Before it was hot chocolate, it was actually radish seed.
Yeah.
So, on that, shall we dive into what we have done as volunteers? Because I believe we have all volunteered in our day. And
I still
Selena,
volunteer.
Well, we'll start with you then, Selina. Like, what did you do to earn that hot chocolate sachet, and what are you doing now?
So, I'll start off with the one that I've been doing for the longest, which is girl guiding. I am a leader at a brownie pack, which I've been doing for over 8 years now, and I really enjoy it. But the reason for getting involved in it was once upon a time in a far, far away land, I was going to be a teacher. Well, that's what I thought I was going to do with my life. So I needed some experience with working with children, and that's how I got into girl guiding. Thought it'd be a good thing, and I applied for teaching, didn't go to plan, but I enjoyed brownies, so I stayed. But I really like that it's not something to do with disability, which might be a bit controversial, but I like that I'm not in the disability sector with it. And I like that I'm educating the future about disability though. I'd like to think that me going to brownies every week with my guide dog is just normal to them. They ask me questions about my blindness, and that's fine. But I hope they then, when they grow up, they'll remember me and think, yeah, being blind is not really a big deal. We used to have a leader at brownies.
How good are you at pitching a tent?
Oh, I don't do camping. That's more guides. That's older. It's okay.
Well, why did they not go camping? Because I was in Cub Scouts, which is like the brownies of
men.
Yeah.
yeah. So
yeah, Scouts and Cubs do camping. We do sleepovers, but it's not camping.
So I can imagine there is community centre, hard wooden floor with sleeping bags.
Yeah, which I've actually not done personally. I've not been available.
How convenient.
Yeah, that's one. My second volunteering that I've been doing for quite a while now is I'm a speaker for guide dogs. This one kind of came about after my first guide dog, Calvin, died, and I kind of realised how much it costs to have a guide dog and everything's entailed, and I don't really do or never did much for them. So it's kind of, I do this more for me, saying thank you for giving me guide dogs. And again, as I like to do the children talks. I love the questions that they come out with, some funny ones. So I do that, but I do that within my own terms of it can be hard to say no, but I've learned to say no when you're asked to travel like quite far or something to do these. I try and do it in close proximity to my house. I enjoy doing it, but everything's got to have limits.
Nice.
And then my third volunteering, which I've spoken about briefly, which is my most recent one that I started this year, is that I am a mentor for Look. So I'm a peer mentor for younger visually impaired people, and I've been doing that one for about 4 or 5 months now, which is nice. And we do need to say thank you to Look, because we are going to be at Sight Village, tagged onto their stand with the podcast. So if you want to find us at Sight Village, come find Look, and we will be there as well.
Lovely little plug there for them.
Lovely little plug. Fantastic. So, Cleaves, let's hear about your experience.
I volunteered for Sight Support Derby, and I used to work on the youth programme through my parts of uni that I wasn't at uni. The holidays, some people would call it. And we used to take kids out of 16 and under just to do random activities throughout the day, just so I guess parents could have a little bit of free time. Some people had other disabilities other than their sight condition, and their sight ranges from, nystagmus to what Selina might describe as proper blind. But they would also have other disabilities as well. Some would have ADHD, some would have autism, some would have epilepsy. So you kind of had to learn about those a little bit as well. I don't know why they took me. I think they took me because I was someone that had experience of being visually impaired. But in terms of being a volunteer, I don't think I could be someone that had like safety precautions. Do you know what I mean? You have to have someone that has, I guess, I had training from the actual organisation, but in terms of responsibility, I think you have to have someone that has some sort of visual prowess. Oh yeah. Well, I don't know how it works. But anyway, they basically take me along as an additional volunteer, so I could. And I did. My sight was a bit back then anyway, but I used to, help out with the kids and make sure they were in line. Otherwise, I smack them upside the face.
You never did that.
No, I didn't. Of course, I didn't.
Just for clarity.
But it was actually quite rewarding, especially when you had some of the people with more
additional needs.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, I'm so glad you two are here. But yeah, it was actually quite rewarding when you have people like that, and you take them out to. Sometimes it was just random days out. We just go like trampolining, or maybe we would spend a day in the music room, or we'd just play like board games or something. And then other days you would go to, I don't know, like a theme park, for example, and you'd get to take people on the rides and stuff like that. So it was good in that respect. I enjoyed it because I got a free ticket to like Drayton Manor and various other theme parks. Pretty sick. I also volunteered for the Nottingham version of Sight Sport Derby called
My Sight Nottingham.
Thank you. I would have got there.
Yeah, but we have a finite amount of time for the episode.
Again, on that, I was kind of working on activities, but that was more for adults as well as kids. But their activity support program, I was going to say, this is what was good. And the engagement of the people on the activities was not as good. So a lot of time the activities were cancelled and stuff, which is a shame. I think I'm still technically voluntarily employed by them, but I've not been. I think you have to have training every X amount of years, and I've not been on that. So every now and again they drop me an email. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do activities, providing they're outside of 9 to 5, which a lot of their activities aren't. But it is what it is. Who knows? Maybe I'll become a luck volunteer.
Why did you stop with Sight Sport Derby? Was it a distance thing?
I stopped with Sight Sport Derby because it was a bit of a trek to get to. And I kind of, once I'd finished uni, again, once you were in full-time employment, it's a bit harder to volunteer unless it's in evenings or weekends. And a lot of the activities that they put on, especially for kids and stuff, are during the holidays. So I'm at work during the holidays. I don't have the time to volunteer, unfortunately. If these charities started running evening activities, then yeah, sure, I'd be there.
Why have you only volunteered for sight loss charities and nothing else?
Well, I know about it, don't I? Basically. I think I would volunteer for other charities for the disabled people. I know there's some crossover there, but in terms of my experience, I have experienced sight loss, so maybe I can pass that on to some people.
That's fair.
Yeah, let's talk about your volunteering now. Sorry.
Yeah, what are you doing?
So for around 4 years, I volunteered for a MenCap centre that was near where I lived. For those who are unaware what a MenCap centre is, it is a community charity that offers respite care for families with children who have conditions like Down syndrome, autism, who might need some respite, essentially, because the care requirements for some of the children were very high. And if you have other children, sometimes you want to be able to just have a little bit of respite. I'm trying not to use respite again. But with some of the complex needs that some of the kids had, it would have been near impossible to take your other kids to the theme park, for example, because that was a trigger for their kids. So it was very much trying to give our families a balance to help them out. So I worked with them for around 4 years. Really enjoyed my time. There was a lot of projects we worked on, like getting a sensory room put in. It was all tactile, nice lighting in there, nice sounds, all tactile games and experiences, because that's the best way of communicating and engaging for some of the children that we had visit us. Especially in the summer months, there was an ice cream stall, which a lot of the older kids, we did have some that were above the age of 16, and they were getting paid essentially to run this ice cream cafe thing. And I would help out with that in the summer, which was really good for them. Got them give them a different experience. showing them, giving them self-worth as well. And they were paid for that. But of course, there was a lot of volunteers around to make sure that they weren't overwhelmed with things. So, handling the till and things like that was fine, but then stocking, there's various things. There was a limit to what we would put on them, as a team to do, just so they weren't overwhelmed, because for anyone who's worked in retail, it's fucking hard. The reason I sort of took it on was I wanted to get some actual experience of working. Like, everything I did there I was ingrained into everything, from the fundraising side to assisting with events and being around the families and the kids, as well as other things. Like, I helped out with the payroll, the financing. I just wanted to get as much working experience as possible. I was fresh out of university, wanted some real experience. So this was the best thing I could do. On the other hand, the reason I left is because I got paid work over the road with the leisure centre that I started working at. And that was a hard decision for me, because there were roles that came up which I did apply for paid work within the MenCap Centre, and was overlooked, regardless of me knowing the families, the kids, knowing what the role actually was. And this was basically admin roles, which I was doing anyway, and I was overlooked quite a lot. And it got to a point where I got into paid work, and I'd been scorned a few too many times. It must have been 3, maybe 4 times I'd been overlooked. And working there that long as well, you feel like you're proving your worth, but it just seemed that they didn't really want to pay me for my time, which made my decision where I just went over the road to a new job. But that's the reason I left, really. I got very frustrated.
You just went back for free ice cream.
I didn't know. You had to pay. The volunteers had to pay for the ice cream. You didn't get it for free.
That sounds like a really shit deal. You're going to pay the staff, not pay the volunteers, and the volunteers have to pay for ice cream.
Yep. Yeah. There was a lot.
I've just realised I've forgotten one of my volunteer roles that I do. Can I add it in?
Sure.
Thanks. I need to add it in because I have to say I help run the UK VI BAME Network Facebook group. And because I'm an admin and run it, I share this podcast on that all the time. So it seems only fair that I give them a shout out.
What network is it?
The UK VI BAME Network.
BAME.
So basically, for visually impaired people who are from a Black, Asian, ethnic minority. So living in the UK. That's the criteria to join the group. And it's a nice group.
Okay.
Yeah, BAME.
Yeah, not
you know. Yeah.
Not Bane from Batman. Bane Network.
But yeah, I help run that as well.
Awesome. So we've all had a fair amount of experience with volunteering, but in honour of the Volunteer Appreciation Week, let's cover we've already covered why we have already done some volunteering, but the positives of volunteering and why someone who's disabled, because that is our lovely community, why is volunteering a potential avenue of them to go out and do? And we've covered some of this already. And I think getting active experience within a working environment, I think is you can't understate how important that can be with actual experience with doing a job, even if you're not getting paid for it.
Looks good on your CV, doesn't it? I did mine between uni. I didn't have a job at uni. So I thought, I'll bang that on there. Yeah, it's kind of rewarding. It's nice to do something. It's nice to give back a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely rewarding. But also I think it really helps with social isolation. It can help give you a reason to go out and make friends, like girl guiding, especially, my brown owl came to my wedding, which is lovely. So I've genuinely made some good connections by volunteering.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've touched on it as well, like lived experience, especially if you're disabled and you're going into disabled charities to volunteer. I mean, you don't have to, you can go work anywhere. and volunteer. There's lots of opportunities out there. But I think from a disabled perspective, giving that lived experience can be really, it can be something that other volunteers who don't share that disability, something that they can't necessarily offer their service users.
But should some volunteering be a job?
Absolutely. Like I covered with my experience, I was passed over for work, and it just became very clear they didn't want to pay me. They were happy for me to do 30 hours a week when I was at the busiest for free, but they didn't want to pay me for it. And I think this is the issue where volunteering can become a bad thing.
Maybe charities ain't got the money to pay.
You'd be surprised on the charity. They can in some instances. I'm not saying all of them, but I think when there are situations where a job becomes available, I think their volunteers should probably get preferential. They should be preferential when it comes to that hiring process, especially if they are advertising for paid work.
But that's the thing with volunteering, though. When does it become not okay to volunteer? Where is the line? When are they taking advantage of your skills, your knowledge, your experience? And are disabled people more at risk of being taken advantage of?
One, yes, probably. I mean, any volunteer can be taken advantage of. Free labour, right, to a charity. Mm-hmm. Boom. But also probably disabled people, because charities kind of know that it's harder for disabled people to find jobs. So it's a bit easier to go, yeah, have a job here. We'll give you this X amount to do, and we'll get you this extra work to do, and it'll look great on your CV. And basically all the things that we've been pitching as good things, charities will pitch to you. But I think at the point, if you feel like you're being taken advantage of, that's the point where you can go, actually, no. I mean, ultimately as well, at the end of the day, you're a volunteer. So if you don't want to do something, just go, no, that's not for me. What are they going to do? Say you can't volunteer anymore. Oh no, I'll lose all my pay.
And like you covered with like your work with Site Support Derby, it's too far away. And like Selina covered with like the guide dogs talking, like you are able to say no because sometimes it is inconvenient. Even if you're being reimbursed for your travel, that's sometimes the effort, the mental exhaustion of doing public transport as a visually impaired person can be like, you're not getting reimbursed for that. They might be reimbursing you for the trains or whatever you're using, but the mental and physical stress that can put on you to volunteer can be a deal breaker.
At the end of the day, you gotta want it.
Yeah. As well as what we've covered about some of the negatives, I think when you are being taken advantage of as well, what I experienced was I've seriously devalued my experience and skills, because when I wasn't getting these paid jobs within the charity I was working, it made me feel really shitty.
And it's happened to me as well. I'm gonna say that I volunteered for a charity. I applied for a job, and then I didn't get it. It's happened to me as well, and I was quite upset.
Yeah. And it makes you feel shit, because you think, well, am I not good enough to be paid for anything? And it's only been in recent years that I have started pushing more and being, well, no, I am absolutely worth that with my skills and experience. We have a lot of trials and tribulations as disabled people. Mental health often comes hand in hand with disabilities that are physical or neurological. And do you really need that? Especially when you're doing the best thing, like the kindness of your heart or whatever reason, to not only not be paid for it, but that's what volunteering is, but to have that negative knock, sometimes it could be a bad experience for you.
It can, but ultimately you're volunteering. If you want to tell someone to go fuck themselves, you can just do that.
Yeah. And I with all my volunteering now, I do it for a reason for me, as well as not just for the charity that I'm volunteering for. I'm getting something out of it, or I feel like I'm getting something out of it.
The problem is with charities and things like that, they get you invested as a volunteer from an emotional side of things. And if you can detach that, if you know you're being taken advantage of and you can detach the emotional side of things, then you can just tell them to screw off, basically.
Anyway, let's get a bit cheerier.
Yeah, let's go cheery. So, on the whole, how would we rate let's say there was a point system, and
I was waiting for Cleaves to jump in there. Come on.
Let's say you had to rate something.
How would we rate our experience? Let's throw an arbitrary number out there of out of 10.
I'll go first. My experience of volunteering has been generally quite good. So what I got out of it was really good. I got a bit of experience. I was doing something between uni, or I was doing something after my job. I met a lot of nice people. The kids I worked with were great. It was always good to meet the parents afterwards and, talk to them about the kind of days that the kids might have had. It was good in that respect. In terms of a CV position, it's something to put on there if you've got a bit of a gap. You can always do that. Or if you're not working as a disabled person, again, it's great. You can walk into even a base level position and it might put you slightly above someone else who's done nothing. Whether they're abled or disabled doesn't really matter. At least you've got something on your CV. So I would recommend it from that point of view. I mean, the only reason I really stopped volunteering was, one, it was inconvenient. It sounds really bad. It was inconvenient for me, but it was quite a trek in one instance. And the other one was the actual charity that I was working for just couldn't keep up with, they just couldn't put the events on. So for me, it was largely a good experience.
Good. Out of 10. Arbitrary number.
That was what I was waiting. Where was the number?
Yeah, what I should have said was 8.2.
Selina.
The volunteering that I do now, I'll give 9 out of 10. Because everything that I do now is really good experiences that I have. On the whole, I love brownies. It's fun. I mean, I get to be a kid basically, but I love volunteering as a mentor. I like giving back my, lived experience to somebody else, and I'll be getting a second mentee soon as well. So that's good. And guide dogs, yeah, I've got to say thank you to them for giving me 2 guide dogs so far. But I enjoy doing the talks and interacting with the public. I especially like it when I get to go to girl guide groups as a guide dog speaker, because that just brings both of my things together. I think it makes it a bit more meaningful as well to the groups that I go to, that, you can actually be a girl guide leader as well as being a guide dog owner. It gives me a sense of identity, I think, being a volunteer as well. It's not just I am a blind person, it's that I am a person who does all of these things. But in the past, I have definitely been taken advantage of and had some negative volunteer experiences, which made me not want to volunteer for quite a long time. But yeah, it's all good now.
I would say a 7 from me. I really loved what I did. The actual fulfillment I had with that role was really good, but I can't neglect how much it set me back as far as my own self-worth, because ultimately I wasn't working at the time, and it was something to fill out my CV and keep me active and get me out and doing things. But there was a tangible goal I was working to, and that was get into paid work. And I don't think it really helped me, especially when I went into a industry which had pretty much nothing to do with the role. There was some transferable skills, but not that many. So,
you know what? We've forgotten one big thing that we volunteer for, but we all do. This podcast.
Yeah, I know. It's not a volunteer work. We do it for the love. It's a hobby.
Outlet. We volunteer our time to do this. You volunteer your time to edit it. He volunteers his time to write the notes for the show and all the research that we do.
Yeah,
we don't want it to be a volunteer thing, but
we get paid in sweet ad revenue. We've almost got enough for a drink at the Cecil Christmas party.
Yep.
We can share a Coke between us.
Yep. And it has opened opportunities for us as well. Although, again, we're volunteering our time to
at those opportunities. Yes. We're not getting paid for them either.
No, speaking of opportunities, what have you got, guys?
How so?
Well, do you want to plug the various things we're doing now?
We will be at Disability Expo on the 6th and 7th of July, myself and Selina. Come see us at panels. I am doing the education panel. Selina is doing the sport and recreation, I believe it is, isn't it?
Sport and fitness, same thing. Yeah.
We will also be doing some podcasting while we're there. I will also be facing Chad Michael Boughton of Unstarted Radio in a Mortal Kombat competition. So please come along and watch me smash his face into pulp.
You fucking better.
Honestly. I have been practicing.
And Selina, what are you doing in terms of competitive sport-based?
I can't share that yet.
Oh.
Ooh, there's a tease.
Okay.
There's a tease.
Not yet. I hope after Saturday this week, but then yeah.
We will also be there with our guide dog to come and say hello to us. So you will be able to find us quite easily. We are also going to be at Sight Village in Birmingham the weekends.
Weekdays.
The weekdays
Monday and Tuesday.
Afterwards.
17th and 18th of July.
That's the dates.
And Cleaves will be there, the Osiris of this motherfucking podcast.
Yep. And we will be there. And potentially we might do a The Price is Blind live.
Come and see us. We'll put you on air.
Yeah.
Please do. Come along, say hello. And if you have any questions you'd like us to answer or have some situations or would like advice, we might be working on a new segment coming up, and the live aspect of that will be at these events as well. So.
And bring alcohol.
Yeah.
Tasteless alcohol for Selina, so she doesn't know.
Let's say, soft drinks for me, please.
Also, that does seem a bit rapey. Okay. Just alcohol for me and tea, soft drinks for Selina.
Yep. Or a sachet of hot chocolate.
Nice.
So, until next week, have a great volunteers week. If you are a volunteer, thank you for what you do. If you work with volunteers, make sure you thank them, because sometimes it is very appreciated. I know they're giving you their time and that's their choice to do, but a little bit of appreciation does go a long way. And if you'd like to volunteer for Seesaw Podcast, you can find us at the following links. And we promise we will not abuse our power. Please, Mike.
Thank you for listening to Seesaw Podcast. Your feedback and comments mean a lot to us, so if you'd like to get in touch, you can do so in the following ways.
You can find us on Twitter at Seesaw Pod, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube at Seesaw Podcast. And you can also join us at seesawpodcast.com.
Remember to like, rate, review and share with a friend.
This podcast was recorded in front of a blind audience.